Hey gang, Rodin here. Welcome on back to the Cade and another episode of WTF Wednesday, where we look back on games that on paper seemed like a good idea, but in reality turned out to be anything but. And boy, have we got a poster child for you this week. We're going to go back to 1996, and we're going to play a game that I understand why Acclaim decided that they were going to put this game together, because it was right at the height of one of the most transformative eras for games, not just video games, but all of games that we have experienced in my lifetime easily. And I was a front row day one person for being a part of it. We are going to play Magic the Gathering Battlemage. Now, this game came out, it was created by Acclaim, and it was released on the PS1 and on Windows PCs in January of 1997. It was also supposed to come out on the Sega Saturn, but that version was canceled in mid-1997. They never really explained why, but my guess is in no small part because, as you will find out over the course of the next half an hour, it is a terrible game. Also, before we get too far into the weeds on this, I want to offer a slight mea culpa for the issues we had with the audio on our one-day playthrough for UN Squadron for the Neo-Geo, which we aired on Monday. For some reason, I think OBS changed their sound parameters on what gets populated and what doesn't as far as my mic to the ambient sound from the games that I play. I run my games actually at about, I'd say, about 50% lower than my mic does. So you would think that there would be enough separation there that you wouldn't have that issue. But alas, that didn't end up that way. So what we're going to do is we are going to do one of two things. We're going to start with the campaign mode, because this game has two options. You either play the duel or the campaign. And we're going to start with the campaign because it is by far the weakest of the two. But then if we have time, we'll try a duel and then also show you just why this game was never designed to work. Now, like I said, I got into Magic the Gathering, I was, 14, 15 when this game came out? The original card game came out, I should say, in 1991. And me and my friends were the kids in our school who jumped on it, because we were the geeks. We liked to play D&D and other classic role-playing games like Shadowrun and whatnot. And this was transformative for us. Magic the Gathering gave us the ability to spend our time when we were playing, in having lunch in the cafeteria, playing Magic while we were eating. And we actually managed to get the game banned in our high school because the administration at the time was so freaked out that the idea that you could potentially gamble on Magic the Gathering, even though you can't, that within 2 months of us starting to play it and them realizing we were playing it, yeah, the school banned it. Never stopped us from playing it. We didn't care, but I digress. So this game, how it works is that the campaign mode, you have 6 wizards you can choose from here, and I am gonna see, there's Jared Carthalon, the Shadow Mage, and I will tell you that the controls in this game are not easy to figure out either. When I did my test run to make sure this game would work, I ended up backtracking more often than not, which is not a good sign for how this game runs. So the premise of this game is that a planeswalker named Revitalized, a planeswalker is a fancy name for a wizard, has organized a contest on the continent of Corindor to set the most powerful mages of the time to fight each other, so then he can eventually take down the winner and conquer the entire continent. Which seems fairly antithetical, but then again, I'm not a wizard, so what do I know? Now, each different wizard that you can utilize has different spells, and they take over different regions of the continent. So for the sake of this one, I'm just going to go ahead and take Jade. and we will get started. Now, this game is one of the most negatively reviewed ones I've ever come across. In no small part to, one, with the controls, and I thought I was going to actually start the game. Instead, we backed up, which again speaks to the issues that this game has. Especially nowadays if you want to try and play it. Where if you don't have the ability to read the full instruction manual, then this game is damn near impossible to play. So this is the campaign map, and this is Revitalized. And of course, he's going to try and convince me that we need to work through all of our differences because he's the one who killed my parents. So I have a personal vendetta with him. And I'm just going to go ahead and go and just start the war now. So, at the moment, there are 4 other mages on the continent, along with Revitalized, who are going to try and buy up or conquer all of these zones. Mine is the smallest at the moment, which is right here. And how this game works is that you have to select where you want to attack from, and then pick a region that is directly adjacent to you, so that I can't like go over here yet, but I can come around to, say, here. And then we get this little cutscene explanation of what this realm or what this state is that we're about to venture into. Personally, I don't care because it's lore that is of no real consequence to me in terms of playing the game. And now we get this cutscene or this opportunity here with a decision tree where I have to pick how I want to treat us with Kadisha here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be diplomatic about this one. So they're willing to align with me so long as I am willing to protect them if anybody tries to conquer them. And they are in possession of the Sunglasses of Urza, which is an artifact that I remember from when I was a kid playing this game. The Sunglasses of Urza allow you to treat white mana as red mana, I believe, if I remember it right. But out of establishing a treaty with them, I get the Sarah Angel, Wall of Swords, Wrath of God, and the Sunglasses of Urza, which is perfect. That's stuff that I want. And I have found mana in the form of forest, plains, and islands. So Hamath has joined our cause. The only thing that we get to do is that now our turn has ended and everybody else gets to attack. And some of their attacks will be successful, some of them won't. So, for instance, this one got conquered. And now we do the same thing again. And in this early part of the game, what we're trying to do is we are trying to build up our reserves of mana and resources, which will go into our deck for when we inevitably have to fight a fellow wizard. The thing is, though, is that you're not going to be fighting anybody for a good while. So for the first maybe 10-15 minutes of this game, you're not actually dueling anybody. And once you get to the duels are nothing like an actual game of Magic, which is the big problem with this title, is that you can't call it Magic the Gathering and then not have it be Magic the Gathering. And if you're not familiar with the original card game, what it is that your deck is your spell book. And as you play it, you are drawing out lands for mana, which allow you to pay for spell cards, creatures, enchantments, effects, all artifacts, all that stuff. And it is to use to defeat your opponent. Or if you want to play in a multiplayer game against multiple opponents, that's how you can do it. But this game, Acclaim decided for some reason that they were going to just turn this into not a game that is based off the card game, but they wanted to make it into a real-time strategy game. So I have the opportunity to find archers, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I lose a card, though, as a result of it. So Erlen Wild remains neutral. Stonehaven Plains have been conquered. Chiron has been conquered. Battle Rising has been conquered. Now, it says I get 16 taels in taxes. I have no idea what that's for, and I have no idea what that benefits me in any way. So I am going to go this way. But now we're almost, we're 12 minutes into the game. We haven't actually fought a duel yet. So what's the point of having a game called Magic if you're not actually dueling people with magic? So in this one, there's something that you seek, artifacts, maybe some advice. Everyone in Minarad is a sage or thinks he is. So the glimmer of intellect I see in your eye, traveler. Even a broken Minarad has many things to offer to those who dare to dig deeper. So I have to pick my answer here that I hope will get their attention. Now, I could be direct, I could try and be diplomatic again, or I could appeal to their sense of, hey, give me stuff that's going to help me out. I'm going to try this one again. Marketplace, if you want to call it that, is always looking for a good set of hands that won't make you wealthy, but your stomach won't shrink from emptiness. That much I can promise you. If you need to find anything else, try and find Old Dallas again. Let me ask this one. That's a dangerous combination, my friend. If that kind of trouble is what you seek, I might know a place well suited to your style. Where can I find it? Knock on the door shall be opened. Welcome to the great library of Minarad. But there is a price wizard. Reasonable I shall be. No greater a war was there that loomed before us that looms upon us. The Antiquities War. Now the problem is that I don't have enough funds, I think. Or I did have enough. Now we get all this lore that is based off of stuff that was in the game. And if you're not familiar with everything that goes into the original versions of Magic the Gathering, it's changed so much in the last 30 years that... Holy cow, how long does this go? That a lot of the stuff that I was interested in when I first got into the game... Who do they expect to be able to want to read that much stuff? So we got grizzly bears, elven archers, and 2 mountains, and we have Minarad joining our cause. So yeah, having been to my local comic shop in the past couple of months, it's been interesting to see just how much Magic the Gathering is not the Magic the Gathering that I started with. Back then, it was, you had the base set. They had a couple of subsets that were called Arabian Nights, Antiquities. By the time they got to Legends and Ice Age was the time I really got out of playing the game for the most part. But I'm not ashamed to admit by any stretch that I still have all of my Magic cards that I've ever played with. They're sitting in a couple of boxes not 10 feet away from where I'm recording this. And part of it is nostalgia, and part of it is because every once in a while, like my sister or a friend of mine who still has their cards may want to come over and play, and we sit down and we play a couple of games. It's still a fun game, but if I was to take my cards to a to an actual like card store or to a game shop and play it against kids who play it nowadays, they probably look at most of my cards and go, you can't use those. So now we've got an issue where we've got this one has been conquered, this one has been conquered, and now we're likely going to have a fight. But before I do that, I'm going to try and get one more zone. That's a mighty big mountain.
Oramon.
And the fact that the loading screens are so long. Oromon remains neutral. Okay, so we didn't get a chance to even approach dealing with it. But looks like we're going to have a fight. And here's where this game goes completely off the rails. Because now it goes from being like an Age of Empires style campaign where you're taking over different zones to now being in this sort of scenario where you've got to be able to understand how everything works in real time. So now I've tapped a couple of mana, which are my mountains, so I've got a couple of mana that I can use, but now I've got to be able to utilize stuff that I don't necessarily have access to. So I use a Jade Stone. And that's great and all, but now I've got to be able to summon something that can help me deal with this stuff that is attacking me. So can I get my Minotaur out? And while I'm sitting here trying to figure out how this game works, I've got my enemy attacking me in real time. So now I've got an Elvish Archer out, and what I can do is that I can have them go after my
giant tortoise
enemy, who I have to find on the board, and who has already hit me for a ton of damage. But I don't know where they're coming from.
Tap mana. Ornithopter. Tap mana.
So I need to get more stuff out.
Tap mana. Hurling Minotaur. Creature bond.
And now, in theory, I can send this thing out to attack him.
Weakness. Select target. Select target. Giant string.
So now I've got an enchanted Hurloon Minotaur who can hit for a lot more.
Tap mana. Jade stone.
But I still don't know what I'm doing.
Vampire Sprite.
And apparently I'm summoning stuff that can help me, but I'll be damned if I know what it is.
Fog. Monsters Goblin Raiders.
And I've summoned some more stuff.
Creature bond. Tap mana. Tap mana. Tap mana.
And I can go ahead and play Fissure in theory.
Select target. Backfire.
And none of that worked. So I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to get creatures and stuff to come help me out. And I think I've died. So, in trying to attack my enemy, yeah, I lost the mountain and I lost that whole area. So, this is the game. And I've only played one duel, except how did the duel work? Because while I'm sitting there trying to figure out how to get creatures to go attack my enemy is able to, without missing a beat, just start sending enemy after enemy after enemy after me. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out what is going on. And if you play the dual side version of it, it's the same thing. You're just picking a random location and having to do the same thing all over again. And if you're not able to get more land or take over more regions, then your enemies can just conflagrate around you and just start taking down everything else until you're ultimately conquered. Which begs the question, if you're trying to make a game based on a collectible card game that is in no way played like this, what are you trying to accomplish by totally reverting the style in which the game is played?
Scrib Sprite.
So, like, I summoned Scrib Sprites, they're way down there.
Vampire Bat.
And now I want them to go attack wherever my enemy is, but, like, I've got to go looking again on the board to figure out where the heck they are.
Giant tortoise.
So he's summoning another giant tortoise.
Tap mana. Elvish archers. Vampire bat.
And again, I'm summoning my archers, but what are these guys ultimately going to do to help me out? And because this was 1997 and nobody thought, hey, a tutorial would really be helpful, or that something might actually make this game more beneficial, or at least in terms of the gameplay.
Monsters, Goblin Raiders. Backfire.
Like, none of this adds up.
Tap mana. Alibaba.
So I summon Alibaba, who can control walls, but that's not going to help me at all.
Creature bond. Wall of wood.
I've got the wall of wood. That's nice.
Tap mana. Jade stone.
I get the jade stone, but
Vampire bat.
yeah, I can still add mana to my mana pool. I get that, but now I've got all red cards and I have no red mana, so it's pointless to have anything help me out.
Dark ritual.
And I've died. So, I mean, this is the game. Like I said, and it's terrible. And we're at 28 minutes, and this is as far as we've gotten. So, I mean, we might as well call it here. But I genuinely don't know what what Acclaim was thinking when they decided that this is what they wanted to do in building this game. It makes sense as to why 7 years later Acclaim was bankrupt and people don't look fondly on their time in video game design. And to that point, actually in 97, a different company, Spectrum Holobyte, filed a lawsuit against Acclaim after they published the PC version, claiming they had violated an agreement the two companies made in November 1996, which established a release schedule for the game that would go on different platforms. Apparently in 2018, the game's rights were acquired by a Canadian production company, Liquid Media Group, as part of the liquidation of Acclaim, but I mean, it's never been reissued, nor would I expect it to, nor would I imagine why anybody would want to play it. Because this is not a good game. This isn't what a game that is based off of a collectible card game anybody ever thought we would see if it was poured over to a video game. Which begs question number 2. You can go to any game shop in the world nowadays and buy a perfectly good starter deck. You can buy plenty of older cards. You can spend the same amount of money you would have spent to buy this in 1996-97 on pretty much everything you needed for you and your buddies to sit down and play the actual collectible card game of Magic the Gathering to your heart's content and get far more enjoyment out of it than you would have in this version of it. So, is this a game they could make today? I mean, they could make a Magic the Gathering game, and I'm sure they made quite a few of them. I don't, off the top of my head, have a listing of all the different Magic video games that have been made, but this is by far and away the worst of the bunch. If they made more than this one. If Wizards of the Coast looked at the overall returns on this game and decided that they weren't going to make more of them, I don't blame them. Because, again, nothing about this game makes any logistical sense. There's nothing about it that you think, okay, I want to have a real-time strategy game, but I have no comprehension of how the controls are going to work. You're up against an AI that can do more than you from the jump. The controls make no sense, even if you have the manual, and good luck trying to find a manual of this game nowadays. I mean, I'm sure you'd be able to find it online. There's game facts and whatnot, but even then, it's going to be like probably doing calculus. And if they could have simplified this game so much more than what we got. And I think it was just a matter of Acclaim thinking, hey, let's do this big grandiose thing, because at the same time, this was at the same time that World of Warcraft had come out. It was really the era of the boom of real-time strategy games. Except Magic isn't a real-time strategy game. Magic is a card game. Give us the card game. You could have taken all the elements that made Magic the Gathering a really cool card game and implemented it in a much more aesthetically pleasing and much easier to navigate package. And I'm sure the kids who did not have access to the game or were told they couldn't play the game by their parents or whatever for a lot of reasons would have been able to play it. But they didn't. And what we're left with is this steaming pile of awful. So, would I recommend you try this game out? No. Is this a perfect candidate for a WTF Wednesday? Yes. Because it's one that I'll be asking until the day I die how they could have taken a game that was really, in 1997, Magic was at the height of its popularity. It really was. I remember seeing TV commercials, it was in magazines, it was in public, it was all over the place. And in the fledgling days of the internet, it was everywhere. And that they gave it to Acclaim, and Acclaim just totally crapped the bed with this. I would not be surprised if that ended up damaging the reputation of not just Wizards of the Coast, but the game itself for a couple of years. And again, now that Magic is, 32 years on from when it was initially released, it's a far different beast from what I grew up with and what I got into it for as a first-generation Magic player. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying that's a good thing. It's how games like that evolve. But yeah, this is one that I'll put this up on the Rushmore of truly some of the worst games I have ever experienced. So, if you've been enjoying this, and I do hope you have, best way you can show it, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, ring the bell to be notified of the latest content. Remember, we do have Sports Saturday and Sucker Punch Sunday coming up this weekend, where we play classic sports and fighting platform-based game from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th generation. We are also still working on finalizing our next playthrough. I am taking a bit of a breather because Dark Souls Remastered, while being a great game, which was a lot of fun, the playthroughs tend to take a bit more out of us energy-wise and resource-wise, because we've got to make sure we're getting more stuff put out there on a consistent basis. So, and we've got to pick a game that we really want to do another deep dive into. We're not going to do another role-playing game for a bit, only because we want to be able to give some variation on it. So, once we have a better idea of what direction we want to go in next, we'll start putting the content together, and we'll start getting it up, and we will, of course, let you know. Be sure to follow us on social media through Instagram and Threads at Ronan's Retrocade to help spread the word about us so we can continue to build our subscriber base. We're over 130 subscribers now. We're still hoping to get to 200 before the end of 2024. If not more than that, we'll certainly take it. But we can only do that if you spread the word about us and help get people to our channel That way we can build this community the way we want. And if there's a game you'd like to see us feature from the Nintendo Entertainment System, the Super Nintendo, the Sega Master System, Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, SNK Neo-Geo, Nintendo 64, Sega Saturn, Sega Dreamcast, PlayStation 1, or PlayStation 2, leave it in the comments below or drop me a line on social media. It can be any game from those consoles you want except this one. No way are you going to pay me enough to play this thing again. Just get that out of the way. But in the meantime, my name is Ronan. It's been great to spend this WTF Wednesday with you. Be safe, be well, happy gaming. We'll talk to you on Saturday where we get a wonderful palate cleanser as we go back to playing Sports Saturday. Bye.